Hey, what's up YouTube? Down in the Smartphone Guy coming back at you with another video, and today I want to share with you my full review of this device right here. This is the Alcatel Idol 5S, and so I've actually had this device in hand now for 11 days, and I gotta say that so far my first impressions have pretty much stood. Not a whole lot has changed since the first impressions video, and that is to say that it's a good phone, but I'm not sure I would call it a great phone. So with this year's device, Alcatel definitely went for a more budget-friendly device. So you can see that right now you can pick it up on Amazon for $200. That is with the Lockscreen Ad version. So you will get Amazon Lockscreen Ad. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. So turn it on here, and you can see down here I get this Lockscreen Ad. Or the other version without the lock screen ads is $280. Now, I will mention that I did try to use a couple of methods to get rid of the lock screen ads. Unfortunately, I was unable to do that. And I will mention that that device right back there, that is the Moto E4. And I was able to get rid of those ads on first try. So I'm not sure if there's something different about this device that makes it more difficult, but I wasn't able to get rid of the lock screen ads. So it's something worth mentioning in case you wanted to pick it up for $200, but you wanted to be able to get rid of those lock screen ads. So let's go ahead and talk about the device. So first of all, the build quality. So there are a couple things that I dislike about the build quality. The first one being the location of the button. So this one is the power button right over here, and then we have the volume rocker on this side. And I gotta say that I'm not a huge fan of those locations. So on most devices, I'm either used to having the power button and the volume rocker over here, so basically reverse of what you see, or having the power button down here and the volume rocker above, or vice versa, but typically on the right hand. And I'm not a huge fan of the location on this phone. That's probably just kind of being nitpicky, because overall the build quality is quite good. Obviously you can see here we have a Type-C, we do have a headphone jack, we have a noise canceling mic on the top and the bottom. We have some pretty non-discrete antenna bands, so I think that's great. And also we have the front firing speaker, so also another welcome addition. We have a 1080p 5.2-inch display. The 1080p display does look great. When you turn it up, it does get super bright, like too bright for this camera. So I'm going to turn it back down. I had no problem seeing it in the brightest of light, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Obviously, it has a glass back. The glass actually is relatively good at avoiding fingerprints. You can see a few on there, but for the most part, it hides fingerprints fairly decently compared to most other glass back phones. So like the HTC U11, which is right over there, that thing is just a fingerprint magnet. Same thing with the Samsung Galaxy S8, which I'm actually recording this on right now. But overall, I think for $200 or $280, depending on which version you get, the build quality on this device is pretty darn good. So next thing I want to jump into is performance, and that's another area where I think this device actually absolutely shines. So we'll go ahead and jump into Geekbench scores. So this is running the Snapdragon 625 processor with 3 gigs of RAM. So I'll go ahead and show you the multi-core score here. So we have a 4,229 multi-core score. And what that means basically is that in day-to-day operations, this thing will move quite well. If you are trying to do some multitasking, like let's say jumping into YouTube, you can see that it did have like a bit of a stutter there going into that app, but overall it does a pretty good job. I haven't really run into any situation where there's been any kind of major lag with this device. So I think if you're looking for something that has good performance, it's certainly not the fastest phone in the that you can buy right now. I think that's probably that one right there. That's the OnePlus 5. But I do think that this, for the average consumer, especially at that $200 to $280 price point, this thing is quite snappy with that Snapdragon 625 processor. So the next area I want to talk about is the battery life, and I think that's another area where this this phone just is a little bit of a disappointment. So we have the Snapdragon 625 processor, which is very efficient. However, if I go into my battery stats, and this is pretty consistent almost every single day, it's been almost the exact same. So that's good, at least it's consistent. But you're looking at around, for me, 4.5 hours of screen on time. So you can see I'm right around 3 hours at 42%. That's a little bit misleading because if you see here, there are a few moments where I actually charge it up just a little bit, because actually what I was trying to do is I was trying to get rid of those lock screen ads, so I had to plug it into my computer, which actually charges it. So overall, 4 to 4.5 hours of screen on time, which is to say that for the most part, I think for most users, you will be able to get through a day. But if you're somebody who like watches a ton of video, plays a bunch of games, I think it will struggle just a little bit there. So overall, battery life is okay. I give it like a 4 out of 5. Certainly not an A. B- is about the appropriate grade for this phone in terms of battery life. So next area I want to talk about is the software. So obviously the number one thing that you're going to notice is there is going to be quite a bit of Amazon bloatware, because of course this is an Amazon exclusive phone. So you're of course going to get Amazon Kindle, Music, we got Amazon Drive, Alexa, Amazon Shopping. But for the most part, outside of the Amazon apps that you see on here, it is pretty stock. There are very few bloatware apps on here outside of those Amazon apps. And then in terms of the software, you can see that we're running Android 7.1.1. So we're pretty up to date there in terms of the most recent version of Android. It is running the Joy UI, which is apparently Alcatel's version of Android, but I must say that it's pretty stock. When you look through the settings, really the only thing that you notice that isn't stock would be the gestures. So if I jump down here, we have some gestures here. And so there's 3 there. So we have glove mode, turn over to mute, and 3-finger screenshot. All those work really well. I've tested them all out, and they all work very, very well. The other thing that I really like, this one's actually very useful, is the fingerprint gesture. So if I can find where I had those, so that is, I believe, under lock screen. No, let's try that again. So that is under, hold on, I think it's under security, if I can find that. So there it is, security, and then we have the fingerprint sensor, so it's kind of hidden here. But then if we go down here, we have a couple of options under our fingerprint sensor, so we can use it to go back to our home screen, take a photo, show notification panel, and switch photos. So I'll go ahead and show you one of those. So if I swipe down, I can just swipe down to get my notifications. So just swiping down, swiping up will bring that notification panel down. So that's a nice option. If I hold down on the fingerprint sensor, it will go back home. Of course, I have to be in an app. So let's go ahead and hold that down. So there you see it without touching the actual home button. So those all work very well, and they're kind of hidden in the settings. So that's something worth mentioning. So next, let's go ahead and jump into the cameras. So that's an area where I think, for a budget phone, this thing does take some pretty darn good photos. Overall, I've been pretty happy with both the front firing and rear firing camera. So there's a very low light picture. You can see that same exact picture, the exact same lighting. Basically, I just focused on the actual statue, or I guess the figure there. So that's the difference between allowing it to choose its own focal point versus me choosing the actual image there. So that's same image again. But overall, I've been very pleased with the camera quality. Even in low light, this thing, especially at that budget price point, does take pretty darn good photos in my opinion. There are quite a few options within the camera settings, so I should jump into those. So we have a slow-mo version. We have, of course, video. It does shoot in 1080p. Technically, because it's running the Snapdragon 625 processor, technically speaking, it can also shoot in 4K, but it is not actually available within its own camera settings. So you'll have to download a third-party app if you want to shoot in 4K. But that option is available. We have a 12 megapixel camera on the back, 5 megapixel camera up front. So overall, I would say I've been pretty well pleased with it. So we have panoramic. We do have some manual modes as well. We have a micro video mode. So basically that just allows you to shoot little micro videos and then edit them together. So a decent option there. So we have Cinegraph, a Cinemagraph, and I honestly have not been using either of those two, just something that's available. It does have a 360 photo, which works similar to a panoramic where you kind of just toggle around to take care of that. Then we have the instant collage. So that's basically just shooting various pictures to create an instant collage. And you can see they have a number of different setups for how you want to do that. And then we have the light trace mode as well. So that's for capturing light. So a number of different shooting options. So overall camera quality, I'm definitely not going to give it a 5 out of 5, but I would say it's a solid A- because cameras, especially for that $200 to $280 price point, I think the cameras are quite good. And so the last thing I want to talk about are the speakers. So of course this has dual front firing speakers, which is very, very nice. And so let's go ahead and take a listen to those speakers. So I had a song queued up here. We're only going to listen to a little bit of it because I don't want to get in too much trouble. But of course the speakers this year are not supported by JBL. So in the past they've had JBL tuned speakers. This year they do not have that. And I will also mention that in the past you've also gotten the JBL headphones in the box. Those are not included again this year. So basically in the box you're just getting a charger and you're getting the charging wire. That's it. That's all you get. USB adapter for charging it, and then the actual wall adapter as well. So not a whole lot included. And in terms of battery, I should also mention that this is Qualcomm 2.0 fast charging capable. So that is a nice option for fast charging it. But let's go ahead and listen to those speakers. And then at the end of the video, I'll show you some picture samples as well. Okay, so dual front firing speakers, nice that they're front firing. They aren't the loudest of speakers, so those two phones over there, that's the OnePlus 5 and the HTC U11, both actually get louder than the dual front firing speakers here. But I actually think that these speakers are a little bit more clear, a little bit better bass, still not good bass. They're still just front firing speakers from a phone, but overall the clarity is a little bit better than the average phone speakers. Now I will mention that my microphone was facing away from the speakers, so it probably doesn't sound super loud in your ears, but overall pleasantly happy with the speaker. So let's go ahead and take a look at some pictures, and with that I will see you all in the next video. Peace.